Well, hello. I'm gonna show you what I know about snare building. My name is Mark Steck, and I run Dakota Snares. And I've been building snares not for decades, but for the last 13, 14 years or so. And I've learned through others' books and by doing it. And you know, we're kind of automated here at Dakota Line, but I'm going to show you just how you can do it and make really good snares at home. And snaring, you know, can be pretty economical. And we prefer to sell you the snares, but we sell snaring supplies too for the people that build them at home. And so my goal is that by the time you're done watching this, you're going to know how to build snares, and you may even want to shut it off here and there and build some snares. And you know, I hope this isn't kind of real dull for you. You know, it's not going to be any on the line type stuff, anything like that. It's all going to be right here in the shop. I'll show you around our building here in a little while. So we're going to cover cable, cutting the cable, some different kinds of equipment to cut the cable with, different kinds of locks, relaxing, non-relaxing, dispatch snares, fittings, how you handle them when you don't have all the equipment that maybe we have. You know, we're going to show you a hand squager and how to work with just a hammer. Building the snare loop, loading the snare. We're going to show you how to load snares. Talk a little bit about deer stops, snare damage to your fur, support collars, poly, whammies, and wire whammies. Talk a little bit about swivels, inline swivels. And then we're going to show you how to die snares. And I think that'll, in itself, is worth the price in this video, because a dyed snare is better than a non-dyed snare, in my opinion. Less refusals, and we're going to show you just how we do it. So, we're in South Dakota, Canton, South Dakota. And I've lived in this area for 15 years, and this is where I built my business at. Snare cable. I mean, that's one of the key components of your snare. And choosing the right cable, I mean, that's an important thing for you. You know, there's really two different types of cable that you can pick from. Some would say there's three, but really in snaring, most everybody uses galvanized aircraft cable, and they either use a 7x7 or a 1x19. And then these come in different sizes. You can go from, well, on our big snares we use 3/64, 5/64. There should be a 1/16 in there. 1/16 is a real popular cable. And 3/32 and a 1/8. So what does 7x7 mean? This here is 7x7 cable. This is 3/32 cable. That's probably what we sell the most of. And I know you won't be able to see this, so I'm going to draw you a picture here, but there's 7 cables, 7 strands of 7 strands in here. So there's 49 strands of very tiny wire. And it is wire. Cable is made up of small pieces of wire. So if you were looking at the end of this cable, you would have 7 of these strands, and inside those strands would be 7 wires. Actually, I don't know if strand is the proper terminology. Maybe these are cables within a cable. Okay, so this is the cable. These are the 7 cables in the cable, and each of these cables in here has 7 wires. So total there's 49 wires in there. And your cable that's 7 by 7 is going to be much looser than your cable that's 1 by 19. They're much more flexible, I guess you should say, much more flexible. Your 1 by 19, that is all one cable with 19 wires in there. I don't know if I'll have 19 here. That's not as flexible. That's going to be a stiffer and smoother cable. I've got some 1 by 19 here, and we don't sell a lot of this. There's a few folks that love 1 by 19. The Thompson snares are made exclusively, as far as I know, out of 1 by 19. They're maybe the ones that brought this to market. I don't know. But this is a very smooth cable because there's not so many strands in there. 7 by 7 is more coarse. Consequently, the 1 by 19 is a quicker closing cable, but it's a stiffer cable. There's good and bad. There's disadvantages and advantages. And when we get into the loop making, we'll talk about that. Now, cable, I wouldn't say that there's inferior cable and superior cable, but you can buy a cable that's got a corkscrew to it. It's very rare you get a cable without any corkscrew to it. You can see the corkscrew in this cable. This is a little bit past the average cable. It's a little bit inferior, but I pulled this out because I wanted you to see this. We've had cable that's much worse, and we've had cable that's much better. If we get much worse, we'll use that cable on drowners and Berkshire stakes, disposable stakes. But this will make a good snare. It's not that bad. Some guys get real picky, but in the end, that cable's got to close and hold tight. That's the key thing. If it hangs straight or just a little crooked, I guess I don't split hairs that much, but I don't want it too crooked, and I'll show you why when we start making the loops. The breaking strength, of course, the heavier the cable, the more strength it has. The 1 by 19, if you're going to be snaring coyotes, the coyotes will not shoot through this as easy as it will the 7 by 7 because the individual strands of wire are heavier. But this does kink pretty easy. I mean, once you get a bend in it, this bends a lot easier than I couldn't do that with the 7 by 7. This bends more like a wire. I think the 3/32 7 by 7, I think that breaking strength is 900 and some pounds. I can't tell you these off the top of my head. That's a lot of strength. I mean, you aren't going to break this cable. No animal's going to break this cable, but they may kink it or chew it. And once that happens, then it starts fraying, and then it comes apart. But just pulling, there's no critter that I know that's going to break that, not even a hog. So that's the cable. And I should say that, our cable comes from overseas. Most trapping supply houses get it from South Korea and China. There's some debate which is better, which is worse. I've had really bad cable from both of those countries, and I've had really good cable from both of those countries. When I say good or bad, that's going back to that corkscrew effect. On average, probably the South Korea cable isn't wound quite as tight, and so you don't have as much corkscrew. Okay, so we're going to start building a snare, and I've got a piece cut here, but I'm going to talk a little bit about cutting cable. You are not going to cut cable with a wire cutter. It just isn't going to happen. The cable is just going to bend on you, and it's going to be all frayed at the end and you won't be able to thread it through your pieces. You're going to need a cutter that's made for cable cutting, and this is a Swiss C7 cable cutter. These are expensive, and of course we use them a lot, so we buy the expensive models. But you can buy a cheaper pair, for, we sell a cheaper pair for 20 bucks. This model here, you're going to get about 20,000 cuts on it. The cheaper pairs, probably 3,000 or 4,000. So for on the line, I lose things. I always take the cheaper pair with me on the line. But these cut real nice. And you can cut up to, they say you can cut up to 1/8 inch cable with these, but that's not true. You'll ruin these if you cut 1/8 inch cable. You just will. You'll get probably 100 cuts out of a $50 cutter and it'll be ruined.